This is an aerial view of the Golden Gate Bridge mid-span, where you see a number of vehicles stopped at a standstill. We can't make out from this picture where their protesters are. Now, remember, Amanda said over at 880, there's about 6 protesters who use this device to lock arms together and shut down all traffic in the northbound direction. I'm looking carefully through the monitors to see if we see something like that here in this picture. Maybe if it's just a handful of people, and it does look like, you can see what looks like a banner that the protesters have sprawled out across what is, I believe, the southbound direction of the Golden Gate Bridge, and some cars stuck behind it. So it doesn't look like there's a mass of people in either freeway of demonstrators who have shut down the bridge, but just a coordinated, calculated effort to have a handful of people doing a few things to make sure that traffic comes to a standstill.
All right, a third protest is traffic stopped at 880 in West Oakland right now. This is its 7th. This is separate from the other 2 we've been covering this morning. KTVU's Tom Bakar is live at that scene with what is happening there. Tom.
Okay, well, what we have here at 7th Street is an effective blockage of the port to keep trucks going into the port. You have about 30 protesters and about 20 bicycles, and that is enough to stop. Now, you also have some police officers here making sure that this does not get out of hand. But what you also have here is a pretty broad avenue here, and there are trucks and other traffic coming up down here, so everything has to be done very carefully. But the situation very clearly is, if you look, that's the way you get onto the freeway to get to the 880, and it's also the way you get into the port down the road, and basically it is effectively blocked off. So I've seen a number of trucks come by, and those trucks want to make a right here to get on the freeway, cannot do it, got to keep going on. The situation also is that the weather's good, so there's not a issue here with people being cold or any of that stuff. So this could go on for quite some time, and there are about another 20 or 30 standby people that are probably relieving those folks as they get tired or want to go to the bathroom or something like that. So that is the situation here: effective blocking of a major interstate by about 20 people, 20 bikes and 30 people. That is the situation. We'll keep an eye on it. Back to you.
Tom, can I ask, you showed us, or your photographer did, the police vehicles just off to the side. Do you see any, we don't see any direct contact between police and protesters. Do you see that where you are? Is that happening?
All right, say that once again, because it's awfully loud out here. Go ahead.
Do you see any direct contact happening between police officers and protesters at this point?
Absolutely not. In fact, I think everybody's trying to stay out of each other's way. There's no group of police officers in riot gear or anything like that would want to be used if you had to take these people out by arresting them and doing all of that stuff. Nor are these folks being terribly provocative in the sense that they're not chained together or anything like that. They're just standing there. So as these things normally go, this is about as peaceful as it gets. And because of that situation, there really is no trouble here. And in fact, it's worked so well that as we were pulling up here, I actually saw about 10, 12 people leaving with their signs, and I don't know where they're going, but they certainly decided not to stay here because they were definitely walking from this location. Because if you just go off here to the right and up the street, the big post office for Oakland is up there, and then the BART station, which you can see the BART crossing over, is just right up there, West Oakland BART. So this is a key entrance and exit to the Port of Oakland, and right now it is effectively blocked.
And Tom, to be clear, there are other entrances for semis to get to the port. This is the main one because it's right off the highway, but there are other areas where these pickup and delivery drivers can go?
Yeah, when we crossed the bridge when we came from the station, there's a bridge that goes over into the port. That is completely open, and that leads to an entrance to the freeway not more than a mile from here. So it's not a complete shutdown of the port entirely, but from here, no trucks are getting in or out, and that's the situation. So you only have so many people, and they can only block so many things. And as long as the port keeps in some level of operation, you're not going to have tempers flare like they normally would if the whole thing is blocked up, because now you're blocking livelihoods and you're blocking people that have strong feelings about this, and that's just not the situation here whatsoever.
Tom, thank you so much for that report. Amanda Quintana just giving us information right now that one lane is opening at 880. This is by Embarcadero and 5th, right on 880 if you're heading northbound. Hopefully you can check in with Amanda again. She's been watching there as police try to cut loose the protesters who had chained themselves to maybe concrete barrels or barrels with concrete in them at the scene. Amanda, what can you tell us right now? What can you see? Can you describe it?
Yeah, so they are opening one lane. This literally just happened in the last minute. You could see police are trying to get really one car at a time to go to that very left lane, the fast lane, to get through. And that's where the first two protesters that were taken away were initially sitting. So it seems like they've cleared at least two protesters from that lane and now are slowly trying to get people through, this is a good sign for these drivers that have been sitting here since 6:30 this morning, and it's almost 10. So good news for them to at least get moving a little. We saw them make sure everyone got back in their cars, and now there is some movement. This is the first movement that we have really seen in hours.
Amanda, for the drivers you've been able to talk with briefly, I'm sure their attention is focused on the long delays. Has anybody at all mentioned the cause, or are they just more concerned about getting to where they need to go?
I don't think people really know the cause. If you're just, if you're just driving by, or you're just here on the Embarcadero stopping to take pictures, I don't think the cause is obvious because there's no signs, there's no flags, there's no, and you can't see these protesters because they're all sitting down. So I think the cause might be, kind of lost in the shuffle here, at least, and this World Day A15, this effort. I don't think people know what that is. If you're sitting here on 880, you had no idea that April 15th, there was going to be this huge push. So I think people maybe don't know about the cause right now. But I'm sure they are used to these protests. We've had so many in the Bay Area. When people kind of stop and say, "Hey, what's going on here?" We'll say, "Oh, it's a protest," and they go, "Oh, the pro-Palestinian protest." They realize what it is as soon as you tell them that this is a protest.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Oftentimes we watch these stories develop through the day, even once the roadway is cleared, and of course a lot bubbles up on social media, and that's when people really start talking about the cause that the protesters had in shutting down the roadway. So it'll be interesting to sort of gauge public opinion, but I'm looking hours down the road here.
So Amanda's right by 5th Avenue and Embarcadero at 880, and you're looking at this live picture on the left-hand side of your screen right by the Coliseum, and traffic is even further past that. Where Amanda is at the very front of the protest right now to where you're seeing the end of this picture is just over 6 miles. And we're not even talking about the stretch that we can't see on camera going further south in that direction. So that is the mess that you have to deal with. And when you only have one lane open, this conceivably is going to take a lot of time, too, to clear up. So this is by far from being over at this point. And a lot of trucks, if you take this area a lot, one of the reasons they block this off is it gets off of that exit over there on 7th and 880 to the Port of Oakland, where you saw that other group of a small group of protesters there blocking off that area. So conceivably some of the semis, the big rigs in the traffic here were heading in that direction to get to the Port of Oakland. It's going to be some time before they start moving here, but when they do get there, we're going to have to wait and see what happens at the entrance to the port. It's not the only entrance that drivers have to get into the port, but it is the main one right off of 880. There are smaller ones just outside of Jack London Square that you can use to get over to that side, but that is a big one right off of 880 there. So that is going to be a big problem there's going to be a backup heading in there. And if you've ever been around the port when all the semis are backed up, it is a madhouse around there. These guys have been sitting there waiting to make deliveries or pickups there for hours.
Time
and
is
that's
money.
Just on a regular day. So now you're talking about a day where everything is backed up. It's going to have an effect for sure.
And keep in mind, some of those semi-trucks are coming from a different direction, too, because they have been allowed, while northbound 880 has been closed, the CHP has allowed those big rigs and semi-trucks to take westbound 580 to get around this. So these semi-trucks are coming from all different directions to get to that now closed entrance at 7th and 880. But I do want to note for viewers just watching right now, as bad as this traffic picture looks in the northbound direction, it is slightly better. And by slightly, I mean you can see the far left lane sort of inching along ever so slightly, whereas for the past couple of hours, it was at a complete standstill. That's because, as Amanda just informed us, they have opened the far left lane of northbound 880 at Embarcadero. So here you see it on the traffic map. I'm going to try and zoom in so we can get a better view. It still looks bad, according to this traffic map, with solid red lines in the southbound direction. This is where the now partial closure is, because again, one lane of northbound 880 is now open in that direction. Now that some of the protesters, I believe Amanda said 2 of them, have been removed from that device in which they were all chained, locking arms together, blocking traffic on 880. And so now they've got one lane open, as you can see from this live picture. And traffic in the southbound direction is moving okay, although there's a lot of people understandably slowing down to take a look at all the police activity happening on the other side of the freeway. And keep in mind, as we've been telling you for the last couple of hours, this is not the only major thoroughfare in the Bay Area that is blocked because of a protest calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the Israel-Hamas war. This is the Golden Gate Bridge toll plaza, where you see no one driving in, no one driving out. Both directions of the Golden Gate Bridge are shut down because of a similar protest happening there. Similar cause, as Amanda has been telling us, this is part of a planned day of action April 15th in cities across the U.S. To protest the Israel and Hamas war. Taking a look at a live picture of the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge, where you see earlier we got a closer view and you could see what looked like just a handful of protesters with a banner unfurled in mid-span. But while the CHP works to clear this protest, there's no traffic going north or southbound on the Golden Gate Bridge. And I've been looking at the traffic maps around the Golden Gate Bridge, where you see a big traffic backup building all the way into Marin County.